Hey guys, welcome back to the FFT channel. So the point of tonight's vlog is to go through what he presents you and what it actually means. The first one is the All Ords, the All Ordinaries, the Ords. Their full name is called the All Ordinaries. And the reason why they're called the All Ordinaries is because they are made up of the ordinary shares that make up the share market. In fact, the All Ords are made up of over 500 different shares that make up the share market, and it is the oldest index on the Australian Stock Exchange. So when they present the All Ords, the All Ordinaries, the Ords, sounds kind of cool actually. What they're referring to and why they're referring to it is because it's a great representation of how the Australian market is going. You think about it, it's kind of like an average, but it's not really an average. It sums up all of the values of all of the shares that are in the All Ords, which is over 500, which is close to almost all of the shares that are held in the Australian stock market. So if the All Ords are dropping, that would seem to suggest that the Australian market is dropping. And if the All Ords are going up, or as they showed on TV in green, then it would also show that the market is going up. Green, yay, red, not so great. That is the All Ords. Super simple, super straightforward. Don't be confused by the All Ords. Right, number two, so the Dow. Just sounds dirty, doesn't it? The Dow. How's the Dow going? No, seriously. The Dow, or the Dow Jones, is the US or the New York Stock Exchange, or the NYSE version of the All Ords. I don't know why people shorten them and give them really crappy, dirty names, but hey, it's finance, right? The Dow is essentially the same thing as the All Ords for Australia as it is for the US. So it's an index and it's a representation of how the shares are performing in the US market. If the Dow is down, then it means the US market is, generally speaking, disclaimer, did you see that? Generally is down. If the Dow is up, then generally speaking, the US market is up as well. So I guess you can probably understand now why they report on indexes. And indexes are groups of shares that represent the market. So there are a number of indexes in Australia, and I'll get to this in another vlog about indexes, because they're a great way of getting into the market, especially when you don't know what the market does. And heck, you need a psychology degree sometimes to figure out what businesses are doing, what CEOs are doing, let alone trying to figure out what the whole share market is doing. So an index is a really great way of getting into the market and having, I suppose, a set up portfolio for you that represents the market. Some of the indexes have or represent the top 20 companies or the top 200 companies in Australia, which means that when they report on that index, if that index has gone down, that means that on average the top 200 companies of Australia has gone down, which again, a representation of the market has gone down. So when the news reports on Fortescue Metals or BHP Billiton or a number of the other mining and oiling companies, the reason why they're reporting on those, similar to the indexes, is because they are such massive companies and they hold a lot of power over what the Australian market is doing, especially the resourcing industry. What I mean by the resourcing industry is exactly that. They supply things that resource Australia. That's oil, metal, gas, minerals. So they'll tend to report on the biggest companies with the biggest significant contribution to the Australian market, as well as those that have either shifted or had a massive or significant, that's probably a better word, significant move up or down. Sometimes they report on Telstra because everybody knows Telstra, and Telstra has, again, a significant contribution to the Australian market. And I'm not sure if you've noticed, but pretty sure everybody is walking down the street with a phone in their hand or a phone in their lap or a phone when they're driving. So Telstra is contributing to the Australian market quite considerably at the moment. Gold, silver, platinum, these guys always confuse me, but they're always reported on. Similar to a house, which is a physical asset, you can see it, breathe it, live it, create memories in it. Gold is kind of similar to that. It is a physical asset that you literally pick up and hold in your house. Unlike shares, which I guess you could consider a virtual asset, where you either purchase them online or you go to a bank or a broker or whatever the case may be. They are a virtual asset. You don't go to the stock market and physically pick up your shares and take them home in your shopping basket, whereas gold, it is a physical asset. So you might, I don't know if you're lucky enough, perhaps your grandparents might have one. I know a few people who have gold bullions, but not so much anymore. But when they talk about the price of gold or the price of silver, they don't really report on that too much, but the price of gold, especially going up or down, that means that Joe Blogg's bullion that he's got sitting at home that he paid $1,000 for is now actually worth $1,200. But in order for him to sell that, he needs to physically take his bullion to the market and sell it. It tends to be a different generation that would buy gold. Another one is crude oil. Reporting on crude oil is phenomenal. The thing about crude oil is, and this is a bit of a science lesson, so apologies in advance, crude oil is not the thing that you put in your car as petrol. It is the primary source of the fuel. So once they take the crude oil out of the ground, whether they take it out of the sea or inland, it's then sent to a refinery, and it's at the refinery that it's then refined, or it's changed into lots of different products, one of those being petrol. Because crude oil has so many different forms and can be turned into lots of different things, they report on crude oil as in the barrel, or how much they pay per barrel. And it's a really old term, it's how they used to be transported, but it's just per barrel. I have to admit that I am not incredibly familiar in the war on oil, but when you hear the price of oil on the news, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the amount of oil that they get out of the earth and put in a barrel and they sell it off. Whether it goes up or down is dependent on a number of things like politics, supply, economics, how it's transported, all of those sorts of things. You pretty much need a finance degree to figure that out. It's not what you need to know, but when they talk about barrel, that's what they're talking about. And the last one, probably the most important one actually, is the Aussie dollar. The Australian dollar, the currency, it's something that has been reported on a lot lately. It's affected by so many different things that I don't think anybody could sit down and say the reason why the Australian dollar has gone up today is because of this particular reason. It's just never going to be the case. It's always going to have a multifaceted reason for its increases or decreases. But the one thing that you do need to know is the word strengthen. When you hear that, or perhaps when Koshi says, oh, the Australian dollar has strengthened, what he is referring to is it means the Australian dollar has increased against another currency. That is what you want to hear. If you have Australian dollar or you've invested in Australian currency, that is what you want to hear. Not necessarily a good thing for those Australian companies like the one that I work for, who deal a lot in US dollars, US budgets, and US companies. So when the Australian dollar goes through the roof, it's not such a great thing for those companies that deal with US dollars, because obviously the more the Australian dollar strengthens, the less bang for their buck, so to speak, they're going to get for their US dollars. Another good thing about the Australian dollar going up, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, is the bang for your buck that you're going to get when you do some online shopping, or perhaps if you're visiting the US. It's not doing so great at the moment, but it's crept up a little bit in the last couple of days. So that is all that we have for today on FFT, or this evening, wherever you are in the world. If you want to hear more from us, make sure you subscribe. Isn't this what the YouTube vloggers do? Make sure you subscribe this way and comment below if you want to hear anything. So looking forward to hearing from you guys soon at www.fearlessfemaletraders.com.au. Yeah, I'm just sitting here on my own, so you know. Oh, awkward. And was just, I feel so profesh when I use that word market.